Discuss fully what the market structure is. Cite an example. So that we can analyze a market, we must first define what we mean by a market and what characteristics describe a market structure. So a market is a group of buyers and sellers who, through their transactions, influence the price of an item or service, both in fact and in concept. So a market structure may therefore be defined as the qualities of a market that influence the conduct and outcomes of the businesses that operate within it. So, a market structures serve as a starting point for evaluating business economic situations, understanding how business and markets operate and enables business professionals and executives to effectively assess industry and market news, regulatory changes, and legislation, as well as how the economy influences the strategic decisions. Four basic types of market structures: a perfect competition, imperfect competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. So, a perfect competition describes a market structure where a large number of small firms compete against each other with homogeneous products. Meanwhile, monopolistic competition refers to a market structure where a large number of small firms compete against each other with differentiated products. An oligopoly describes a market structure where a small number of firms compete against each other. And last but not the least, a monopoly refers to the market structure where a single firm controls the entire market. Explain the following characteristics of perfect competition. So 2.1 is price taking. So in perfect competition, enterprises have no price power. They must sell at the going market price. Price takers are organizations that compete in perfect competitions. So customers will not buy from a company that had tried to raise the price by the least amount allowed, since they could get the identical goods from other companies. So the company can already sell all of its products at the going rate, so lowering the price isn't essential. 2. Production of a homogeneous or perfectly standard product. In a perfect competition, the product is considered to be standardized or homogeneous. This means that it makes no difference to buyers whose company offers the product because it is exactly the same. This is the key difference between the perfect competition and monopolistic competition. Because if the consumers detect any differences, the other firms would gain control over them. 2.3 Barriers to entry and exit. So, in a perfect competitive market, there are no barriers to entry or exit. So, this requirement ensures that no one in the business will be able to monopolize the market and remove competitors. It also ensures that the number of businesses, although fluctuating, will remain at large. How is price of a product, service determined under perfect competition? Briefly describe the demand curve of a perfectly competitive field. So, prices are determined by supply and demand processes in a market characterized by a perfect competitions. Both the supply of products from sellers and the demand for products from buyers affects the prices. A perfectly competitive firm faces a demand curve if a horizontal line is equal to the equilibrium price of the entire market. The demand curve of a perfectly competitive business differs significantly from that of the entire market. The market demand curve slopes downward, but the demand curve for a perfectly competitive business is a horizontal line equal to the entire market's equilibrium price. So the elasticity of demand for the item is fully elastic, as indicated by the horizontal demand curve. This indicates that if a company charges a slightly higher price than the market price, it will not sell any items. 4. What is the profit maximizing output level of a perfectly competitive firm in the short run? So, in the short run, managers must decide whether to produce or shut down. And if they produce, how much to produce, Profit is maximized at the output where profit is equal to the shorter marginal cost when positive profit is possible. Firms do not close if the total revenue at least covers the total avoidable cost, which is in the absence of a quasi-fixed cost in total revenue and total variable cost. Since avoidable cost is the same as variable cost when no quasi-fixed inputs are. If total revenue is insufficient to cover the total variable cost, the total revenue, total variable cost, or profit, or average variable cost, the company should stop operating and produce nothing, losing just its total fixed cost. While a company decides to produce, only marginal costs count in determining the profit maximizing output. Therefore, managers must disregard the profit margin, the fixed cost, the sunk cost, and the average cost when making production decisions. Number 5. From our textbook, answer comprehensively item number 3 of applied problems on page 441. Example, all city realtors. So, the manager of all city realtors want to hire some real estate agents to specialize in selling housing units acquired by the Resolution Trust Corporation in its attempt to bail out the savings and loan industry. So, the commission paid by the RTC to the company to sell these homes is a flat rate of $2,000 per unit sold, rather than the customary commission that is based on the sale price of a home. The manager estimates the following marginal product schedule for real estate agents dealing in government-owned housing. Requirement A. So, construct the marginal revenue product schedule by filling in the blanks in the table. So, this is the solved table. So, to get the marginal revenue product, you have to multiply commission per unit by marginal product. So, the commission per unit is $2,000. So, $2,000 times 20 is equals to 40,000. 2,000 times 17 is equals to 34,000. 2,000 times 15 is equals to 30,000. 2,000 times 12 is equals to 24,000. 2,000 times 8 is equals to 16,000. And 2,000 times 4 is 8,000. Requirement D. If the manager of all city realtors must pay a wage of $32,000 per year to get agents who will specialize in selling RTC housing, how many agents should the manager hire and why? So, if the wage rate is $32,000 per year, then the firm should hire 2 agents. Why? This is because the marginal revenue should be equated within the marginal cost. If more than 2 agents are hired, the marginal cost will exceed the marginal value. If requirement C, if the wage rate falls to $18,000 per year, how many agents should the manager hire? So, if a wage rate is $80,000 per year, then the firm should hire 4 agents. This is because the marginal revenue should be equated with the marginal cost to attain the maximum point. If more than 4 agents are hired, the marginal cost will exceed the marginal value. Requirement D. So, suppose the RTC raises its commission to $3,000 per unit sold. What is the marginal value product for each real estate agent employed? So, to get the answer, we have to multiply commission per unit times marginal revenue product. So, our commission per unit now is changed to $2,000 to $3,000 so per unit sold. So, 3,000 times 20 is equals to 60,000. 3,000 times 17 is equals to 51,000. 3,000 times 15 is equals to 45,000. 3,000 times 12 is equals to 36,000. 3,000 times 8 is equals to 24,000. And 3,000 times 4,000 is equals to 12,000. Requirement E. So, now that the RTC is paying $3,000 per unit sold, how many agents should the manager hire if the wage rate is $30,000? So, if the wage rate is $30,000, then the firm should hire 4 agents. Why? Here, the marginal value is taken to the nearest $30,000. This is because the firm cannot hire 4.5 agents. Number 1. Discuss fully the concept of market power in the context of market structure. So, the capacity to profitably maintain prices above competitive levels or limit output or quality below competitive levels is known as market power. So, if a firm with market dominance may have the capacity both to impair the competitive process in other ways, such as weakening current competitors, raising entrance barriers, or delaying innovation, the closer a firm comes to being in a dominating position, the more market power it possesses. When a corporation does not experience effective and competitive pressure in the relative market, market power and the dominant position occurs. Market power is a matter of timing rather than absolute power, and the degree of power varies based on the circumstances of each situation. So, the extent of a company's market power is determined by the 2 factors. So, number 1 is the number of possible competitors, and the second one is the extent to which those competitors create close substitutes for the firm's product. So, the market power may come from a variety of places. So, if a company sells a unique product or service, it has a market power. A company's excellent or outstanding service can also provide its market dominance. For example, customer loyalty, whether via outstanding service or loyalty programs such as frequent flyer miles, is a source of market power for the company. 2. Discuss fully the following characteristics of a monopoly. So, 2.1 Single seller or producer. A monopoly is defined by a single seller and a large number of purchasers. In addition, there is no distinction between the firm and the industry in a monopoly because there is just one manufacturer and or seller. As a result, the demand curve of the company is the demand curve of the industry. So, in a monopolistic market, a one buyer cannot change the price since there are multiple buyers. 2.2 Unique product. So, in a monopoly, there is no close substitute for the monopolist's product. If there's a near alternative, the monopoly cannot exist. A monopoly can only exist if the product the monopolist produces has a zero cross elasticity. As a result, the monopolist has the freedom to set its own price and refuse to sell below that amount. 2.3 Impossible entry. So, even if the monopolist firm is making above average profits, new businesses have several difficulties when attempting to enter the industry. These are a variety of reasons for this, including legislative restrictions, technological advancement, or a naturally occurring material that others are unable to obtain. So, in certain cases, the monopolist operates in a small market, making it difficult for new businesses to enter. Other firms are unable to enter a monopolistic market when one supplier controls the production and supply of a certain product or service. If the government feels that the monopolist's product or service is essential to the public welfare, the corporation may not be permitted to exit the market. 3. What is meant by economies of scale? Cite an example. So, economies of scale are obtained when the volume of the production is increased, resulting in a lower long-term average cost. In other words, because firm produces more units, the cost of manufacturing per unit lowers. This is due to the fact that the fixed expenses such as administration, rent, and so on expenses are spread out among a large number of manufacturing units. Reduced average variable costs can also help with the economies of scale in specific circumstances. The major benefit provided by economies of scale is a reduction in the cost per unit of manufacturing. There is a one-time cost of actually generating the gain if we are manufacturing a big gain. So for example, as an easy add to understand illustration of economies of scale. So as the one-time cost is distributed among the multiple copies of the game, the cost per game decreases. So in other words, the economies of scale are achieved that because we may gain from this decreased distribution and raw material cost, but we increase the manufacturing efficiency and other advantages that boost the net profits. 4. Discuss fully the following characteristics of a monopolistic competition. So 4.1, many small sellers. Each firm is so small relative to the total market that each firm's pricing decisions have a negligible effect on the market price. So there are a lot of buyers and sellers in the market, which is similar to the ideal competition. Monopolistic competition, on the other hand, has less. Other market structures as monopoly or an oligopoly do not provide consumers with as many options. 4.2, so differentiated products. So differentiate items are produced based on things like service, quality, or design. A firm's product is a near but not perfect alternative for another firm's product. This distinction provides an individual company monopolistic power over the market price of its product. In a monopolistic market, firms produce relatively identical items that are slightly differentiated to add value over the competitors. A good example is the clothing market. So there are many various sorts of clothing, each with its own distinct style. The physical, marketing, human capital, and distinction through distribution are all examples of differentiation. 4.3, easy and market entry and exit. Since most monopolistic competition businesses have low capital needs, they may enter and exit the market quickly. However, because producing distinctive market products and advertising cost money, the quantity of an investment is usually higher than the pure competition. So the continually changing variety of items competing in the marketplace is a key element of a monopolistic competition. Firms must constantly experiment with goods, pricing, and advertising through production and distribution. The variety of items available more than the compensated for this. So with an easy entry and exit, businesses will enter the market where they are currently profitable and quit a market where they are losing money, allowing them the surviving business to make a normal profit. 5. In your opinion, in what market structure do manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccine belong to? Why? Explain fully your answer. So, the market structure that I think where the COVID vaccines belong to is the back to the vaccine industry is the market structure which evolved from oligopolistic to monopolistic in some circumstances. The vaccination market is unusual is that in that is characterized by a strong market power held by both buyers and sellers. So historically, a limited number of vendors or sellers, vaccine makers, control the market, resulting a single or limited number of manufacturers providing a single monovalent or combination vaccine. So this market structure is due to a variety of factors. Vaccine markets, in compared to drug treatment markets, are significantly less appealing from the standpoint of a profit-maximizing firm. To begin with, vaccinations struggle from the winner's curse. The longer the effectiveness, the lower the demand. Vaccines extract profits fewer times over an individual's lifetime and reduce the prevalence of a disease within a population, thereby reducing its own demand. So, the drugs extract profits over a lifetime of use and into future generations. whereas vaccines extract profits fewer times over an individual's lifetime and reduce its own demand. So, significant RD fixed costs, high liability risk, demand uncertainty, significant barriers to generic entry, and constant quality competition are some of the other reasons for the presence of one or a few producers per vaccine. 6. Relative to question number 5, make a research on how said companies set and determine the price and output, example, units of production of their vaccine respectively. What strategies do they employ to be able to compete in the market? So, in my opinion, companies set and determine the price and output of their vaccines respectively by using the tiered vaccine pricing. So, tiered the pricing is tiered pricing is a type of price differentiation that involves charging various rates for the same product in various markets. So, vaccine makers often charge higher costs in developed countries, while keeping prices low in the areas that cannot pay the open market price. So the manufacturers can utilize the earnings produced in the industrialized country markets to fund the research and development expenditures necessary to bring new goods to the market in this way. As a result, the manufacturer's market is limited and low-income nations do not have early access to the most recently produced vaccines. By enabling manufacturers to charge variable costs in various areas, tiered pricing may assist to solve the problem of access. So furthermore, donor assistance may down price even further for the poorest nations. So low-income nations can also use food procurement to lower the cost of their new vaccinations. Food procurement in combination with tiered pricing has shown to be a successful technique for increasing low-income nations' access to a New Year vaccination. So, by giving precise demand signals to suppliers, facilitating orders has strengthened these countries' advantage.